Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And with the NFL season rapidly approaching, Tim, you suggested an absolutely bright idea, which I don't know why I didn't think of sooner. Tim, what are we doing today?
With the season coming up, and you see all sorts of guys talking about their opinions on all these different players on different
Tim,
teams.
we're doing a tier list. We're
looking at tier lists.
We're doing a tier list, more specifically the quarterbacks. We're going to be ranking the quarterbacks S, A, B, C, D, and F tier. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's get to it. Let's run it.
Let's run it. All right, here we are at our tier list. And the first quarterback that we're going to start with, obviously, the greatest of all time, Aaron Rodgers. There should be no debate with him. He's an S tier.
Depending on what you're referring to. Greatest of all time, absolute debate. Here, no, he's absolute S tier. There's
most talented of all time. Can we go with that?
Still debatable. That's for another time. But here, no, you're right. Time. It's definitely no doubt that this is for sure an S tier quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going by division. So we're going to look at Justin Fields, the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Tim, what are we thinking here? He's right. Rookie season, didn't exactly do that well. Was 2-8 as a starter, struggled mightily. He had his rookie ups and downs. I classify him in D tier.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, like, for me, in my opinion, like even as a Bears fan, like the Bears fan in me wants to put him at like the Bear end of C because of like the potential, but he hasn't shown that yet, so I can't in my right mind do that. So I do agree that at the moment he's a D tier quarterback. He has the ability to get higher. I'm also just
very anti Justin Fields. That's just
and you have been pretty much since the day he was headed to the NFL. So
before that,
really.
I was anti Justin Fields in Ohio State. So this is not just an anti-Bears thing. This is an anti-Justin Fields thing. So
I think he has the ability to move up, but he's not there yet, for sure.
All right. Now we'll move on to Captain Kirk Cousins. Where do we think of him? Because people definitely have mixed opinions on Kirk Cousins. I know Vikings Nation definitely has mixed opinions on Kirk.
Yeah. And here's what it comes down to for me. It's really, really tough.
Yeah.
He, for me, is right on the edge of B and C.
Really?
Yes. In my, because here's the thing, it depends on because
I mean,
so many quarterbacks. I think
this is going to be a collective running the table tier list.
Yes, so we have to truly agree with this, but I am more inclined, especially with the type of passing offenses that they've had, the type of performances he's put out. I think that I would put him in the low end of the B tier. I think that he has done well enough over the years consistently.
I completely agree.
To warrant being up there in the B tier.
I completely agree. I think Kirk Cousins has done enough. He has proven
There's just a lot of good quarterbacks, though. So it's like it's tough with all the good quarterbacks out there. But I think his consistency in play has warranted that B tier ranking.
Now let's go to Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. He's Goffle. F tier.
Yeah.
Do you have any objections, Tim?
I mean, realistically, no. He could be Bear end of D, but not really, because he hasn't done anything to prove that other than the fact that he made a Super Bowl once.
You know, he could be good, but not really.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's not what he once was at all. And I know that
Lions fans.
You can say he doesn't really have the weapons.
No, we're not.
They have enough guys that he could certainly be a lot better than he's shown. But right now, no, he's not. He's not that guy.
He's not that guy. So done with the NFC North, NFC East. Let's move on. Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles. What are we doing with him? Another very polarizing quarterback.
Yeah,
people have mixed opinions on him too. The rushing upside is there, but the arm strength, the accuracy, what we've seen throwing the ball,
Yeah, I mean, he's a really interesting guy because you've seen flashes of brilliance out of him, but you've seen the inconsistency as well. Right now, I think, given everything that I've seen,
I want to put him in C tier.
Yeah, C is where I'm thinking. I would definitely consider him to be the upper echelon of C, just based on his ceiling and the play that he's had so far, bringing the Eagles to the playoffs and whatnot. But he needs to get more consistent and more accurate to get out of that C tier.
I definitely agree. And now let's go to Mr. Dak Prescott. I feel like we'll disagree with this one a little bit. Cowboys Nation, if anybody wants to check in at this point, because I know Cowboys Nation thinks he's an A-tier quarterback, I'm gonna go upper B tier. That's where I have him. He's right on the fringe. It was a great story, him coming back from that leg injury. He played well enough to lead the Cowboys to the playoffs. He's a born leader, natural gifts. He gets the most out of them, as like he gets more out of them than like any other quarterback in the league, like so to speak. He's a good quarterback. A tier though, not yet. Not yet. I don't see it for Dak.
Yeah, the problem is he got off to a great start to his career, but the problem is there's been a little too much fluttering lately that to be considered in that A tier range, consistency is something that's huge for me in quarterbacks. You can have really brilliant games and really brilliant quarterbacks, but that consistency is what makes you a really top tier quarterback in this league. And he's not quite there yet. I think he certainly can be, but the Cowboys got to figure some stuff out in getting him there.
Yeah, there's still a little bit more that Dak Prescott needs to unlock for his ceiling. So now let's go to Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Danny Derps.
Danny, ew.
I threw him in F tier. There aren't many F tier quarterbacks. I think Daniel Jones is one of them.
That's the problem.
Although I love the optimism from Giants Nation, thinking that he can be good, but no.
I don't really get why though, because he hasn't shown anything yet. I mean, yes, he's athletic.
We all know the play where Daniel Jones broke the open run and he stumbled over his own
but clumsy.
I think that's just a microcosm of how his time the Giants has been. He just can't stop tripping over his own feet, like in the most literal and metaphorical sense possible. So
yeah, there just hasn't been enough out of him yet to consider him to be all that decent. I mean, you've seen the Giants
really not much more to say other than that.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's move on to Mr. Commander Carson. He's in a new home in Washington, and Carson Wentz, another very polarizing quarterback, ran his way out of Philly, 1 year in Indianapolis, didn't work. We know a bunch of Colts fans who I've had plenty of discussions about Carson Wentz, given my Carson Wentz spiel. But if you really want my honest opinion on Carson Wentz, he's good. He can be good. Like we've seen it statistically, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year. He was good when the Colts needed him to be, except for when he wasn't.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and when he was bad,
week 18.
Yeah. And when he was bad, it was so bad. It was almost unwatchable. And just for that absolute floor, which isn't really even a floor, he goes lower than the floor into like a hole, and then he struggles to climb out of the hole.
He really digs himself a hole in some of these games.
He's a D tier quarterback.
That's
tough
where
I'm
for me
placing him right now.
That's really tough for me, considering the fact of, I mean, you look at that 27-7. It's a pretty good ratio. What, like you said, when he plays well, he plays very well. And maybe I can see him as like upper D, but I would consider him to be lower C.
That's where I have him. I have him as upper D tier
because he plays very good football until he goes to hero ball mode. When he starts forcing things,
but it's the hero ball mode that drags him down for me.
I know, but I don't know if I can truly say that it drags him down to D tier. Because here's the thing, right now, as a football fan, I'd consider him to be, I don't want to say significantly better, but considerably better than Justin Fields right now. And Justin Fields I don't see as the bottom of the D tier.
Okay, but that's where we differ. I have Justin Fields as the bottom of the D tier, and I have Carson Wentz at the top of the D tier. So
yeah,
what do we think?
We can keep him in D for now. We can assess later based on some of our lower end C and upper D whether or not we want to reconsider that one.
Let's go back. We'll go back and reassess. But now let's move on to the NFC South, which this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take him out of it. You can't.
No, I mean, look at
he has done absolutely nothing to prove
statistical
otherwise.
Categories that he led the NFL in last season, right?
Yeah.
Passes attempted, pass completions, passing yards, touchdowns.
It really does not matter how old the dude gets.
And he's like older than Father Time himself. He's If he hasn't turned to dust yet, he will soon. But then again, he might not ever. And that's what makes Tom Brady Tom Brady. So
quite simply, it's Tom Brady.
Yeah,
you can't say the words Tom Brady and not consider that S tier.
Yeah, let's not overthink this. Now let's go to Mr. Eating a W. Yabu wins. Jameis Winston.
Oh man.
Tore his ACL last year, but before he tore his ACL, he was 5-2 as a starter.
He wasn't playing bad football.
Played really well. He had the LASIK surgery, which certainly seemed to fix some things. We're a long way from 30-30.
That's
maybe
for sure.
Sitting a year behind Drew Brees and Taysom Hill maybe did him some good, but where are we putting Jameis?
I mean, he's a goofy dude. I love the dude's interviews, but when he goes out to play football and when he's been healthy, especially like with this, what we saw out of him this past season, he's played pretty well. And I'm intrigued to see if he can get a full season in with this new and most likely improved, except for the question mark of Alvin Kamara, Saints offense. I think he could be a pretty exciting thrower of the football. I would put him pretty safely in the C tier. I don't think I can drag him up to the B yet.
Good, because that's exactly where I have him.
There's not enough there in terms of
C tier
proof.
I need to see more.
Yeah, there just needs to be
collectively
more.
are on the same page that we need to see more out of Jameis Winston.
But he has the ability to have a very good season, I think.
He absolutely does.
So now let's go to that they've got.
Let's go to the new quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, Baker Mayfield. Okay, so Baker Mayfield before last season was the best quarterback that the Browns had since they relocated to Cleveland. All right. He was accurate. He made good decisions. He kept the ball out of harm's way. And then he tore his labrum. And then he started playing bad. And then bad got to worse. And then he was run out of Cleveland. And we've covered his saga more than once on this channel. So go watch those videos. Shameless plug. But for what Baker Mayfield has shown me, I'm going to place him, now that he's fully healthy, low end C tier. Tim, do you have any objections?
No, I can completely understand that because a lot of people point out what this last season was for him, but I want to seriously highlight those injuries because very rarely last season was he playing.
That affected his every single throw.
100%. And the Browns overall weren't a very healthy team.
Yeah,
I think that he really hasn't gotten a chance lately to showcase the full arsenal when he's healthy and has the ability to just go out there and sling it like he knows how.
Yeah,
and I think we can expect to see a significant step up from the way he was throwing the football last year, especially with some of the new weapons he's got in Carolina. I think that he has the ability to safely keep himself in that C tier.
And before we move on, if Sam Darnold was on this tier list, he would be an F tier, but he's not. So let's go on to Marcus Mariota, the starter of the Atlanta Falcons, named starter one day into training camp. But here's the thing. His job was stolen from him in Tennessee. He was a backup in Las Vegas, didn't really have an opportunity to see the field because Derek Carr was so durable. So with the question marks, I think I have to put him in D tier.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As of right now, we have not seen a Marcus Mariota in
what, 2 years?
Who knows how long? Yeah, it's been about 2 years since we've seen what a starting quarterback. It's your job to go create this offense, Marcus Mariota. We haven't seen that, so he has the. We
haven't seen it in a long time.
Yes, so I think right now we can pretty firmly put him in that D tier because he's been unproven as of lately. But I think he has the ability to do decently, but I'm not a fan of the overall weapons that Falcons offense has.
Drake London and Kyle Pitts are out there somewhere, baby.
They can be decent, but I don't see that being a very great offense. So I'm not sure his ceiling being all that high, but I am excited to see him back in the starting role.
NFC West, let's go out to the desert. Kyler Murray, he was handed that big old fat extension. He can throw the ball very well. He's electric running the ball. And I think we can put him safely in the A tier for what he's done.
I 100% agree. That's exactly where I had him because of the fact of how a talented thrower he is, his ability to make and extend plays with his feet. Big thing is keeping that ankle healthy, keeping him at full strength, being able to scramble around in that pocket, being light on his feet. But dude is very talented. He's got a heck of an arm. He's got some weapons to throw the ball to. So even with D-Hop out for some time, I still expect to see a pretty high-powered Cardinals offense here.
Yeah. So, and then another quarterback in the NFC West, Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford, for what he did in LA, bringing them a Super Bowl, his arm strength, how he's played in the postseason,
his knowledge. I just feel like he's a very knowledgeable veteran quarterback who can sling the ball a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for. Just
he
because of the fact that he got
out of
stuck
Detroit
on the
and then won a Super Bowl. So what does that tell you about Matthew Stafford?
Yes,
I don't
to
think
me,
he's
absolutely
yet. I don't think because he doesn't take care of the ball very well at times. He'll get wild with it and throw a bunch of interceptions, but this is a quarterback that you can win because of. So A tier for Matt Stafford.
It's he's in an offense that likes to push the ball, that likes to push the limits of, the safe offense. He has the ability to make all the safe throws.
Sean McVay. He
absolutely
figured out what Matthew Stafford does well and inserted that into the offense.
Yes, but yeah, I can firmly put him in the A tier. But even with the Super Bowl, I don't know if he's really up there with some of those S tier guys quite yet. Mm-hmm. Now, if he has a really, really good season this year, maybe. But it's once again, it's still a little unproven.
I definitely know some people who make a Matthew Stafford is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL argument, and
I do think that he's disrespected in general, but I don't think he's truly up there top 5.
Let's go on to Drew Lock, the last of my F tier.
Yeah, just throw him straight down there.
I'm just how you doing? Keep it moving, Tim.
I'm not a fan. Keep him down there. No real need to talk about him.
Cool. Now we have the two 49ers quarterbacks here. We have Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Let's start with the incumbent, the starter now, Trey Lance. So what did we see of him last year? Not much. It was okay.
Not very much.
There were flashes.
It wasn't brilliant, though.
It wasn't brilliant, but you get a year to learn, and
the arm talent is definitely there.
The arm talent's there. The athleticism's there. I kind of want to throw him in the bottom of my C tier. Mainly because I look at the reports and the hype around Trey Lance. I've always been a big Trey Lance guy. We know that as much. Some people have him as their dark horse most valuable player. So
I think that's, in my opinion, that's a big stretch. A big stretch.
It's a stretch, but the hype is definitely there. And granted, of what we've seen right now and the upside, give me C tier, please.
We can leave him there right now, but I think we'll have a pretty decent discussion here at the end to have.
Yeah, is this for Mr. Fields?
Yeah, no, for Wentz.
Really? Oh, that's right, Mr. Oh.
Yes, I am much more inclined to have a conversation about those two.
Okay, we can, but Jimmy Garoppolo, as we speed things up, the statistics in the regular season claim that he didn't play that bad.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he didn't. You look at the way that, they made the playoffs. They won some games in the playoffs. He's not a bad quarterback.
He didn't lose many games.
I don't think he's a quarterback that you can win with. I know that there's been I don't know if it was
there was the graphic Orlovsky's quarterback
win because
of and win with.
He's a win with given the right system, but he's certainly not a win because. And he definitely has limits in where he can take you.
Tim, C tier?
Yeah, I don't think I can put him up with the B, given what we've seen out a lot of these B tier.
I wasn't even debating B tier. That's something that I'll stress. I was C or D because he lost the start.
Yeah, but reason. Yeah, and that's the thing. I very much think that he's a better quarterback than all of those guys that we have in the D tier right now.
I agree. More thinking back on it. So
yeah.
Now we got the AFC guys left. Let's start with the AFC North. Action Jackson, the former MVP, another very polarizing player. I am very fond of Lamar Jackson, and I'm not Absolutely not ready to call him an S tier. Maybe after the MVP season.
Mm-mm.
Let's not go that far.
No,
but
we are not
Absolutely.
going there yet. Absolutely. I mean, you look at what the Ravens were with and without Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's night and day with that team and what he does for that offense. I mean, he's an absolute playmaker, both running and passing. He makes that team so much better.
He had some rough spots last year. He definitely did.
Yeah.
But you don't win an MVP by being terrible.
No. And that's the thing.
And this guy is by no means terrible. And a quarterback that you win because
big difference in these games. Yes, because you could see what that did for the Ravens. So he's for sure A tier for me.
Now let's go to, Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, no.
So, Tim, how mad would you be if I threw him in C tier? Above Justin Fields.
I mean, here's the thing.
Let me just set the record straight. I'm not going to do that. I believe he's a D tier guy.
I will be completely honest and say I can understand why there could be some sort of argument for that.
Okay, but I'm totally joking. It'll just be my shtick to piss off Bears fans because it's what
no. I mean, no, but haha, funny.
Yeah, fair enough. So
I mean, I think that we could see some decent play out of him this year if he is the starter for the Steelers.
It's his job to lose, but Kenny Pickett's waiting in the wings, and you don't draft a quarterback first round and not want to play him. But then again, I've also heard
he's going to get his chance.
That Mason Rudolph has a solid chance to win the job.
So I don't see it.
I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. I don't at all.
No one really knows. But
I think we're better off moving on.
If he gets that starting job, I think he has the ability to show some things. But I think you'll see the decision making being the thing that really brings him down, which has been what has brought him down in the past.
I very much enjoyed the last Bears years of Mitch Trubisky. I think he was.
I didn't.
Mr. MVP. Now let's go to Mr. Joey Franchise, Joe Burrow. A tier. There's really not much more we can say about that. I understand that there are Bengals fans that I know that would want to put him in S tier. He's not there yet. Comeback player of the year, very deserving. Absolutely. I think he definitely can make that next step and be one of the next guys that jump into the S tier. If there are a few guys that can make that jump into the S tier, Joe Burrow is definitely knocking on the door. 1,000%.
With that offense, with the way he throws the ball, with the potential improved offensive line, and the added chemistry with all those guys.
And Tiggins.
Sure. But yeah, you saw just how much he was able to thrive in that offense last year and what magic they were able to pull together for that postseason run. And I think if you're able to keep him healthy, he is one heck of a ball thrower. And I think that he has the ability to be a staple quarterback on this team for years to come. But once again, we need to see more in terms of consistency at that super high level before you throw a guy into the S tier. That's just how it works in my mind.
That's how it is.
He hasn't been around long enough.
Now, so let's go on to Mr. Deshaun Watson. This is going to be interesting.
It's so
because
confusing.
He hasn't since 2020. All right.
But I haven't heard and or seen great things from.
If we're ranking, he F tier human being, but as a quarterback,
is there an F- tier?
Well, he's an incredibly talented quarterback, which is why he got $230 million.
And that's the thing. He is an incredibly talented quarterback, but it's hard to predict. Are we going to see that super high level quarterback come back after not playing for a year and a half, 2 years? What was it? I don't know exactly how long it's been since he's played an NFL football game. From what I've seen and heard, he hasn't looked superstar studded yet. Seems like he's been a little rusty in some of the decision making.
A tier or B tier? What are we doing here?
Right now, in my mind, I got to put him in B until he.
Fair enough. We're going
until
with
he can get himself back consistently.
He was the
playing
last
at that really
quarterback in my A tier, but if you want to put him in B because of the time missed, I have no issue with that. I
feel like he needs to prove himself again, despite the massive deal. I still think he needs to prove himself again before he's back up there again.
Let's go to the AFC East. Mr. Josh Allen. He is one of the best in the league. Yep. He is one of the few that I have in the S tier.
Yep.
Potential
I completely agree.
Winner. Like in the golf match between Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, and Allen, it was Brady himself said he thought Josh Allen was going to win the MVP next year. That's high praise from a quarterback that has done it for a long time. And Josh Allen has all the intangibles to not only win MVP, but lead the Bills to a Super Bowl. S tier.
Yeah, he's got the intangibles, he's got the mindset, he's got the physical ability, he's got the roster around him. He's got weapons, he's got an offensive line, he's got a team that just works really well with him in an offense that will be a little bit interesting now that they won't have Dable. Mm-hmm. We'll see how they adjust to that. But I mean, with him at the helm, you really can't worry that much as a Bills fan.
Let's move on to Mr. Zach Wilson. And Tim, before you say anything,
S+.
He got that dog in him.
Got that dog in him. So no, all jokes aside, I got to put him in D tier.
Yeah. I mean, once again, he's another guy that you've seen some decent things out of him, but not that much.
Yeah.
And I think he still needs some time to work with, his roster and get more comfortable and hopefully get just a better team around him that works with him more, but he's not there yet. He has a chance, but we haven't seen great things out of him yet.
Yeah. Now let's go on to Mac Jones, the rookie for the Patriots. Now in his second year, there's all right. I think he was definitely the best rookie quarterback last year.
I agree.
Granted, not a very high bar, but I think for what he did for leading the Patriots to the playoffs, I think we should put him in C tier.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's another guy that's kind of on the lower end of the win with, because you can win with him. When you put guys around him.
You're not.
No, you are not going to win because of him.
Not yet.
I mean, when you play a game where you throw the ball 3 times, even if it's a really, really cold game, you really can't have that much trust in the dude.
Yeah.
But he definitely has the ability to continue to improve. So C tier for sure.
Mr. Tua Tagovailoa, criminally underrated quarterback. Underrated because he may not wow you with
very solid season.
He may not wow you with his arm strength, or like he may not be the fastest guy in the world. He may not be the most mobile because he's had more hip surgeries and knee surgeries than I can count. But for what he's done, I think he is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think for where most people will put him in like D tier, I'm going to safely put him in.
Yeah, given the guys that we have and have in that C tier, and the way that he's,
I think he's right around that conversation.
Yes, he has even more weapons now. I think he can safely be in that C tier with the potential to have a outstanding season this year, maybe if they're able to put some stuff together down at South Beach.
Absolutely. 8 quarterbacks left. The AFC South. Let's start there. Matt Ryan, a new scene, Indianapolis, former MVP, very storied career, very good so far. He's been a 4,000-yard passing machine. Chicago Bears take notes. And I think in a new scene, granted, he's 36, 37 years old, around there, but I still think there's some stuff left in the tank. And I think given the weapons around him last year, I don't think he's done yet. I don't think he's done quite yet. So I'll throw him in B tier.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think given an offense that is able to work with him and work with his strengths, and give him some more weapons to throw the ball to, I think he can be a very solid quarterback. And I think that I'm expecting to see some of that from the Colts this year. So I feel comfortable putting him in that B tier.
Yeah, of course.
I think he's got a year or two of very solid football left in the tank.
Let's go with Mr. First overall pick, Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Struggled heavily. There's only so much you can say about him because he was a first overall pick, because he had like all this talent, all the hype, and
his roster sure didn't help him though.
Massive flop in his first year. Like, all right, I guess you give him one more year, like to show improvement. I think
there's definite room
for how bad it was. Granted, I will say this: with Urban Meyer as head coach, he didn't have much help at all. I'll throw him with the rest of the rookies minus Mac Jones in the D tier.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable putting him in the F just because of the fact of his situation.
Well, I wasn't thinking about putting him in the F.
Yeah, so I'm very comfortable with him.
Those are my 3 F tier quarterbacks: Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, and Drew Lock. That is the F tier.
The F standard.
I'm sticking with it. So now let's go to Davis Mills, who showed some flashes with Houston. I see that look on your. What does it mean? Are you?
I think he had a sneakily decent season.
He did
for what he was given with that Houston Texans team, and I think you could see him continue to get better and better.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like the guy, despite them not having a very good season. I think with an improved roster and another season to continue to work, I would range to maybe put him at that bottom end of C. What do you think?
D.
Really?
I'll go D, because if we're gonna put Trevor Lawrence in D tier, let's put Davis Mills there too, because I have those two neck and neck. Was the difference between Trevor Lawrence and Davis Mills to me is the quarterback that underachieved in a bad situation, a quarterback that overachieved in a bad situation, right? And now I think they've kind of leveled out and they're at the same place. So
that's fair.
So Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans is definitely an interesting case, because it seemed like that playoff loss and how bad he played kind of erased everything good that he did in the public perception. And let's not forget that Ryan Tannehill was still a very solid quarterback that went 12-5 minus Derrick Henry for most of the year. So Ryan Tannehill, since he got his second shot with the Titans, he has taken full advantage of it. And I think he's a bottom end B tier guy.
Yeah, I would agree. He's kind of on that fringe for me, but I don't think you can ignore what he did for that entire season up until that point, just because he had that one very, very bad game. And it's shown kind of what some of that floor is for him, but I still consider him to be a very solid quarterback. And for that, I can't see putting him in the C tier. So I can still put him at that bottom B.
So now we have 4 quarterbacks left. AFC West, we saved the best for last, and the S and A tier is looking kind of bare. Let's fill that, shall we? Which one do you want to start with?
Let's take a look at the pretty obvious one to start with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you look at a guy who has competed at the highest level. Yeah. It's a no-brainer to me to fill out that S tier with Patrick Mahomes there. He's just way too talented. Even though he's had obviously great weapons and a great offense, he's just a super, super talented quarterback. He's going to be up there for years to come.
Now let's go Derek Carr, the other end. He led the Raiders to the playoffs in a very, very horrible situation. So what does that get him? I think that gets him B tier, if I'm being completely honest. High-end B tier. High-end B tier.
Yes, because I was going to say
not ready for prime time yet.
He's a guy that is fringe, given what I've seen out of him and his situation. He is to me, in my opinion, very close to being fringe A, but he's not quite there yet. And I think this year could be a big, big year for him moving up there.
Absolutely could. And now we have 2 guys left. Broncos country. Let's ride. Let's ride into the A tier, because Russell Wilson is still that guy after all these years. He was Mr. Durable for Seattle, and he only missed 3 games with the Seahawks last year. A new change of scenery in Denver, I think, is going to remind, and a better offense for that matter, is going to remind everybody that Russell Wilson still is that guy. And he's another one that I think can make the jump into S tier, because he was there at one point, and I think he can be again.
Yeah, I mean, change of scenery, I think better offense, but also a better defense that's going to put him in better situations
and
to
not Pete
win
Carroll.
Football games. Yeah, I think he's still very much that guy. I think people kind of forgot about him given just the way last season went for the Seahawks. I very much see a bounce back year from Russell Wilson here with the Broncos.
Justin Herbert of the LA Chargers was very good in year 1. Was even better in year 2, throwing for over 5,000 yards and absolutely lighting up the NFL, taking it by storm. I actually have him as the 5th best quarterback on my board. So below Rodgers, Brady, Allen, and Mahomes, it's Herbert. Do we want to put him in S tier?
I'm going to be honest, I don't think, not yet.
I'm not gonna. Close. I just wanted to raise the question.
Yeah, I can see why a lot of people want to raise that question, but not yet.
Yeah,
he's a really talented guy, but there needs to be more. There needs to be a better playoff showing, really.
Yeah. So this is our quarterbacks tier list. So before we finalize it, we're going to go back and discuss a little bit more, because I know we said we were going to go back. And Tim, what are your complaints, quips, qualms? What do you got for me?
The biggest thing for me is between that C and D tier is the very much unprovenness of Trey Lance. He is, I think, what I would consider to be the bottom out of all of those guys that we have in that C tier.
Completely.
And from what we've seen out of the past couple, and especially out of last year, out of Carson Wentz, I am tempted to flip those guys in terms of top of D and bottom of C, because of the fact you look at what Carson was for the Colts team throughout most of the season. 27-7 is one of the better touchdown to interception ratios in the league.
It is.
I think he is significantly more proven than Trey Lance. So as of right now, if we're not going based on purely potential,
just
proven to be serviceable.
Played longer.
He's proven to be serviceable. Trey Lance hasn't yet.
Serviceable.
Because I think because here's the thing. Because I think if Trey Lance was proven to be serviceable, he would have overtaken Garoppolo last year.
Okay, but it's the strategy of, do you want to throw the rookie quarterback into the fire? Because we look at guys like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, and that didn't go so well. You have a veteran in Jimmy Garoppolo, and they went all the way to the NFC Championship with him. So do you want Trey Lance to get thrown into the fire right away, where he could potentially crash and burn, or learn from a veteran quarterback right away, which we've seen over and over and over again, like with a few of these guys in the S tier? The main one being this guy.
Yes, and I completely understand. But with so many of these other guys, we've talked about essentially not going based off the potential or what they can do in the next couple of years. It's where they're at right now. And Trey Lance, in my mind right now, is not with the rest of those guys in C. He's just not.
But if I were to start a team and my two quarterbacks on the roster would be Lance and Wentz, I'm starting Trey Lance. Like 9
here's
times
the thing.
out of 10. And serviceable, meaning third roster in 3 years?
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's a reason that he's been a starter for 3 different teams, because teams are willing to give a chance with him because of his overall talent and his ability. I mean, he has one of the best deep ball completion percentages in the entire league. Carson Wentz does. Like, here's the thing. I just think that in terms of readiness right now, Carson Wentz has proven to be a more ready starter than Lance has. And it's about proven. We could see Lance easily overtake what Carson will do with the Commanders this year. But I don't know if he's there yet.
I think we will. But
you're basing it off of a most likely versus a what we've seen yet. Because we saw Trey Lance last year. And he wasn't like superstar by any means in the limited amount of
we saw Trey Lance
time that we've seen.
Okay, so the stats for Trey Lance, we saw him start 2 games. He was 1-1 in those starts, 41 completions and 71 attempts, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 97.3. The QBR suggests at 33.4 that he was not good. So, but what did we expect from a rookie quarterback? We don't find the Justin Herberts of the world that go lighting it up week 1, like step in and go lighting it up.
Wasn't expecting that from him anyway.
Yeah. No. And looking at Carson Wentz, his statistics for this season, Carson Wentz, 9-8 as a starter, 3,500 yards, 64% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, 94.6 passer rating, and a 54.7 QBR. So the stats suggest he's above average. It's the downside for me, but that's why this is our own opinion. So you know what? Given that this is a running the table, you know what? I'll bite and flip them.
Because here's the thing. They're right next to each other. They're essentially like C minus D plus. Like if there was a middle ground in between, they'd both be right there.
I'll flip them, but
Hey, these are two guys that are going to be very interesting to watch, and anyone who cares to comment on this, I would love to hear people's opinions on these two guys, because they're two very different in terms of, you talk about young guy who's up and coming, who has the ability to really take off, and a guy that's kind of trying to reach that ceiling but just hasn't been able to get there since that like nearly MVP year. So a lot of people have very differing opinions, as do we. So I'd love to hear what people think about that.
Interesting. That's the only thing we've disagreed on.
Yeah, quite frankly. Yeah.
But we normally see eye to eye on a lot of things. But if you have any disagreements or comments with the rest of the list, for that matter, let us know. We want to hear your opinions. And maybe come mid-season, we'll revisit this. I definitely want to revisit Trey Lance and Carson Wentz later on down the line, because
it'll be a very good comparison
I have a feeling that history will see Trey Lance overtake Carson Wentz as the better quarterback. But as of right now, I can see where you're coming from. But this is our quarterbacks tier list. This is it. Got any complaints? Got any suggestions for us? What we should do next? More tier lists? Let us know in the comments. So the NFL season is rapidly approaching. We'll be making more stuff, football related and all other sports related. So if you like some stuff from us, if you want to see more from us, like and subscribe. Until next time, we out.